What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, or if you are new here, welcome. My name is the Wolfman, and no, is not a part of this monster franchise that they have building up, but we are here to review for you guys Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire, which, before we get into the review, I just want to preface this by saying whether this year ends up being a good film year or a bad film year overall, I think I'm going to hail 2024 as the dumbest year for titles. Like, there are some titles this year that just outright are jack shit, like Land of Bad. That is the dumb ass title. And then now, like, we have Ghostbusters, The Frozen Empire. Such a dumb title. And then Godzilla X Kong, The New Empire. And it's just like, oh,
this is even worse. And I'll get into my problem with the title in a few minutes. I'll get to my issue with the title in the review.
Yeah, which apparently, supposedly, the X is supposed to be silent. That's like a Japanese thing. It's apparently supposed to be silent, so it's just Godzilla Kong. The New Empire is apparently what's supposed to be. So it's like I don't understand. Then why not just call it Godzilla / Kong, or just Godzilla and Kong? I don't know.
Yes, Godzilla and Kong. Kongzilla.
Kongzilla, that would have even been better, something like that. But yeah, it's like, man, this year is looking bad for film titles. Like it's really funny. But yeah,
Kong.
we are here to review the film for you guys because Andrew finally got around to seeing it. I saw it on opening Friday night, and I got a popcorn bucket, the metal popcorn bucket here that has Kong and Godzilla on there, and then I also got this one just because I was like, I can get a topper of my boy Godzilla on there. And as y'all saw my straight out of the theater reaction, I was not a fan of this movie. It gave me a headache. This was stupid, and I'm fine with stupid movies. I actually was kind of somewhat a little bit and like somewhat a little bit of a fan of Fast X, and only because like that finally knew what it was trying to be, and it was trying to be this ridiculous, over the top, franchise with cars that can do unthinkable things, and so there are certain times and places where I can let my brain go and sit down and enjoy something. Heck, I just gave a not glowing review, but a somewhat positive review for the new Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2. So I can tell you up front that I'm the type of person who can let my brain go and just enjoy films, the certain films here and there. But maybe it's coming off of Godzilla -1 and just seeing how amazing of a film that was. I was not that huge of a fan of this one, but I know that Andrew is. So just like our Argyle review, we will have a little bit of a fun little debate between our thoughts on this. But
no, I did not love this movie. I said 80% out of 100%. 80% of this movie was, yes, this is what I want. This is what I want. And there was 20% of, all right, I would have changed this and I would have changed that a little bit. But so there were definitely things that I would have changed. Here's the reason why I can like this. Like, you brought up Godzilla -1. When you walked into Godzilla -1, you knew from the movie alone, you got the feel that this is gonna be a more serious movie. kind of like in 2005 when you had Peter Jackson making the new King Kong. You knew this is not this is not a hey, this is gonna be stupid. This was a legit, like, this was trying to tell a good story. Maybe even being nominated for awards. But when you go into a MonsterVerse movie, you're gonna be getting downright stupidity. So when I walked into this movie, I walked out saying, okay, I'm satisfied.
Yeah, and I can understand that, because if you are here, and let me tell you, I didn't get a lot of shit because I didn't get a lot of comments. I got one comment on my out of theater reaction on YouTube, but I got a lot of shit from you guys on TikTok. Like, I was getting shit talked on TikTok. There you go. That's a nice little rhyme there. But it was really entertaining just to see how everybody was bashing me, saying cinema doesn't need to be high art, man. It can be something goofy and fun and all this stuff. And me sitting there in the comment section saying, hey, I agree with you, but to an extent. And this was just something that, yeah, if you're going in for the giant monster fights and that's it, if that is all you are there to see is giant monster fights, then this will please you immensely. Oh, okay, there it is. But if you are there to see giant monster fights, but to also see, well-rounded characters, a well-written screenplay, all that kind of stuff, then this is definitely not going to be the film for you.
I did not go in wanting that. I went in going wanting those. Do you remember in the 90s those like cheesy action movies? Like, yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger with those one-liners, stuff like that?
Yeah.
That is what I was looking for with this. Of like over-the-top characters, cheesy one-liners, silly moments combined with a really, really cool monster fights.
Absolutely. And this does deliver some of that, but we'll definitely get into our positives, our negatives, and we'll pretty much go in talking about and then give you guys an overall conclusion. Guys, this is the one time you are going to see this happen. I know we do this with a lot of our reviews. I'm not adding a spoiler section here. What we tell you. This is a freaking Godzilla and King Kong movie. There's nothing to spoil. You know what you're getting with this movie. All right.
There's only one spoiler moment in this movie.
I guess there is only one spoiler moment and something that was hinted at in the trailer that wasn't actually revealed, but we might say, okay, this is a quick spoiler in case you haven't seen the film. But like, guys, trust me, I loved it seeing Campia on his review. He literally stands up and he walks up to the camera and he says the same thing. He's like, this is a Godzilla and King Kong movie. There's nothing to spoil, guys. It's like, it was like really.
I have to watch his review now.
Yeah,
just to see that.
Yeah, it was so like, but yeah. So we'll get into all that, guys. Right now we'll start off though with our positives, what we did like, and then we're gonna get into our negatives after that. So starting off with positives is, I will say this: when the monster action happens, it was entertaining as hell, man. I was like, yes, this is everything I was wanting as a child, seeing, big monsters go boom and clash with each other. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a gorilla suplex another gorilla before and do like wrestling moves on each other. That was just a complete blast to see and was completely entertaining. from them there. I will say that even though I will say that like the visual effects also were pretty good here. Not like as impressive of like a Godzilla -1 where like that was made for a $15 million budget but looked as good as it did. It's not like something like that, but it was still like yeah, the effects were really solid. I thought they were well done. The other positive I will say is that while I have issues with the characters in this film, the performances themselves weren't bad. The performances themselves were uh, for the most part were okay and good for what we were expecting. So and then I guess another positive of mine is whenever it does take itself, so whenever it is silly, it's embracing the nature of like what it's supposed to be and such. So I do like all that, and that's and I do like some of the other added monsters that they have in here too. That was pretty cool. That was a positive. I want to say there's some new monsters that we've not seen before that enter into this film, and I thought that was pretty neat. There is one plot point though with King Scar that was completely idiotic and stupid, but I did still like the other monsters. It was pretty fun. So yeah, I mean that's kind of I guess all the positives I can really lean towards for a movie like this. But what are some of your positives?
And my big positives, other than those, are with the characters. Guys, every character in this movie is not a bland government agent. It's not like, hey, I'm the government agent. Oh, I'm the government agent. We're gonna all act like this. We're gonna act really formal. We're all scientists. We're gonna act like really intelligent and formal. No, each character acted over the top and acted different throughout the movie. And if you sort of like, yeah, I didn't want any of them to die. I wasn't like, yeah, I hope that character gets killed off, or I hope that character gets killed off. Spoiler: somebody does get killed off, and I'm like, okay, that was the one character that if somebody had to be killed off, that would have been the character that I would have killed off. But
I don't even remember. See,
the
that's
the
telling you how
guy
forgettable it
the
is.
guy the guy that was like piloting the ship with the beard.
Oh yeah, I know.
The guy that got eaten by the plant thing. He's the most like, yeah, okay. He was expendable, but everybody else had something to them that I'm like, okay, these aren't like rich, developed characters, but they're not the same. They're not bland. They're not boring. They are completely entertaining. They're they're kind of like, for me, like the best way that I can describe it is I've watched this guy named the Nostalgia Critic, and there was a review that he did of the cinematic achievement of the Thomas the Tank Engine movie, and there was this one actor that was taking things like very seriously, like it's Shakespeare, and he would just be like, "It's Thomas the fucking Tank Engine. It's not Shakespeare. Don't take it so seriously." And I love that nobody in this movie like had that, like, or at least most of the people weren't that over dramatic self. And for creatures wise, the little monkey by far was the standout creature in my opinion.
Of the new creatures, yeah, for sure.
Yes,
I,
and
I agree.
King Kong is definitely who I came here to see. If you like King Kong, you are going to be happy.
Which is a good segue into talking about our negatives because I will say that if you are a fan of Godzilla, you are going to be vastly disappointed. And the
That
reason this, I
that's the issue with the title right there.
yeah,
Godzilla X Kong. Like, where's Godzilla most of the movie? You know, it should be Kong X Godzilla at this point. And I'm like, that would have made more sense.
Yeah,
It was
because
more like
give him
King
first
Kong
name.
movie, featuring Godzilla.
Yeah, because it's really dumb that they did that with Godzilla when especially after Godzilla -1 just came out and was such a success. Like Godzilla was a lot more prevalent in Godzilla versus Kong than he was in this one. He's like frozen in the ice for a lot of this movie, and he has a fight scene at the beginning, but then you don't really get to see him again until they team up at the end, and it's really disappointing.
And for characters wise, the few minutes that you have the government agents watching Godzilla, those were the human characters that I'm like, yeah, you guys are. I'm gonna take a nap for a minute, and then I'm like, oh, they're done. We're back to the Kong people again. Okay.
Yeah, I definitely understand that, but I still have issues with the fact that there was one character that did take themselves extremely seriously, and that was the little girl. Like that, her every single thing. That was not hamming it up in the slightest. They had this whole subplot where she's being worshipped by like the Mothra tribe people, and it was so weird. I can't even explain to you what happened there. I literally turned over to my friend and I said, like, what is this movie about? And he was like, King Kong's going somewhere. then,
I kind of did feel bad for the girl, especially in the beginning, and I thought the ending was kind of sweet. Where she's
the ending was the only tender moment between any of the characters that I felt any emotion whatsoever for.
Like where she's like homeless with you, that scene.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that really sweet. I felt interested in her character, but I completely understand what you're saying, and I had issues with that. It was, and I'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah. And talking about just, yeah, I had issues with that, but then also the one character played by Rebecca Hall, she does this thing where she gives us a bunch of exposition dumps throughout the movie. There are like 3 times that she gives exposition dumps in this film, and one of the times that she does that kind of pissed me off because she was saying how King Scar was such a threat that he even scared Godzilla. Godzilla didn't want to be here. I'm like, you're telling me a giant lizard monkey, giant lizard who can breathe fire, who has all these abilities, was scared of a twig of a monkey. You're telling me this? He was scared of him? I call bullshit on that. That is so dumb. I'm not taking that from my boy. That was idiotic. And there was some other things that she shared about exposition that was really dumb. And then whenever King Kong decides to go try to get Godzilla or whatever, that she literally sees him going there, and the guy's like, where are they going? She's like, and then it's a whole scene of her pretty much being like, oh, I'm just now gonna be here telling every single one of you audience members where King Kong is going and what he is doing, because y'all can't figure it out for yourselves. So he is actually going over there to go get Godzilla so then they can go fight. I'm like, why are you telling me this? I already know this. Why? Like, I hate stuff like that. It's so annoying. It happened with like Imaginary as well, where that old lady was like saying, hey, I'm the neighbor here. I'm going to explain to you every single thing about these imaginary friends because I know everything about them because, we need exposition dump. So here you go. I hate stuff like that.
The only thing that I would say for maybe that was maybe they were saying that the other 2 characters that she was with didn't understand what was happening, so maybe she could have been explaining it to them, but that could have been done off screen as well.
Yeah, it could have been done off screen.
And I feel like kind of did get convoluted as well. a little bit in the last half. I wasn't confused, but it felt like as what was going on. I'm like, okay, this, okay. I'm understand. I was understanding it, but that wasn't the 20% that I was like, yeah, I would have changed that. My biggest issues was basically the government characters, the lack of the use of Godzilla, like literally the last half when Funny just like suddenly shows up, and the exposition, everything else other than that just was like, in my opinion, satisfactory. And it had one of my favorite over the top funny moments of the year.
Which was
okay, guys. So you are watching Godzilla versus Kong. Godzilla comes up to and X Kong. Kong comes up to the surface. He is in danger. He is in pain. You would think, his side, his stomach, he just got killed. Guess what it is? A toothache. So they need to get a dentist to come in to remove his tooth. I'm like, is this really happening? Is this really an issue? King Kong's tooth? And at that moment is when I knew, okay, this is the movie that we're gonna be watching. Okay.
At least that's pretty early on. Yeah, you get the idea. Like if you're not okay with King Kong having a toothache, guys, you're not going to be okay with this movie at all. Like this is because that part was ridiculous. And then of course there's King Kong even gets frostbite in this movie because of ice that hits him from a giant ice lizard thing that
in the Thanos.
Yeah, that's true.
And
he became famous with a robotic arm, which is just out of nowhere, apparently. Like this dude said, oh yeah, we've been keeping this stashed up and such, and it's oh my.
They should have built that up a little bit, a little bit more, like a little piece of dialogue in the first act or something.
I want to see I cannot wait for the pitch meeting to be released for this movie. Because those like pitch meeting videos, I love watching them on YouTube, and I could just imagine it now. He's like talking about how Kong gets frostbite, and he's like, "Oh, then if he's got frostbite, I'm sure he's gonna have to be down for the count for a while now." He's like, "Actually, it's gonna be super easy, barely an inconvenience."
Oh, really?
It's like, oh, really?
I love that. It's like, it's barely an inconvenience. Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's just like, I can just see that happening because it's just. That's what it was. It was barely an inconvenience. They had a robotic arm stashed up for him that he got to wear, and that was just that just added to the ridiculousness. He became a freaking cyborg in a way, and it was like
the arm wasn't as much of the issue. It was for me now that you're talking about it, the suddenness of it. I'm like, okay, if this was an element that you were going to maybe introducing, if you should have used the method of, if you show a gun in the first act, have it fired off, fire it in the third act,
Yeah.
Mention it in the third act as she's literally has a scene where she's talking to this conspiracy theorist dude. So she could have mentioned that to him. And that could have been the audience also finding out about it as well. And then when it comes in, be like, oh, that's what you're talking about earlier. Okay.
Yeah, agreed. Like, because then it would have actually made it feel more fluid and ran more fluid and pace wise. I will say that. That's one thing I forgot to throw in my positives is at least the pacing was good. I never felt bored. That's one thing I'll say is I was never bored with the movie.
Yes.
I just did not like the cringe dialogue. I just was not a fan of the exposition. I was not a fan of a lot of the stuff that happened in this movie. But but I will say that I was never bored, at least.
Completely agree. Perfect runtime. I remembered Argyle during this movie,
Yeah.
and all I remembered was I really liked the beginning. I loved the ending, but the middle, I felt like this movie could have been shortened 10 to 20 minutes.
Yeah, it did not need to
And
be 2 hours and 20 minutes.
It should have been a solid 2 hour. Maybe I could have said 2 hours and 10 minutes, but it should have been a solid 2 hours, maybe like an hour and 59 minutes. But this felt like the perfect runtime. It never felt like, oh, I'm bored, you know. And and if you did, there was something a few minutes later that got you interested. That's one other positive about this movie. They don't do like what they did in the first Godzilla in 2014, where it's all human, 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 human,
That's
human.
true.
Last half, oh, here are the monsters. It's like, oh, hey, we've got King Kong in this movie a bunch of times during the movie, in the beginning, middle, and kicking butt and kicking ass, taking names, you know. So you do get that. That's amazing.
Yeah, that is that all is pretty good. And I've grown on that Godzilla 2014 movie. I still don't love it, but I've grown over the years on it, because I think in the first 20 minutes, like, that was an example of a great human story. I loved Bryan Cranston's story. Like, when he was on screen, I was like, oh, that was such a good story arc for his character. But then they killed him off, and I'm like, they should have made him the main character. But then what I liked about that film is it showed how scary Godzilla could be. Like, it showed the scale of Godzilla, you know, and just how huge and massive he is. That's what I loved about Kong Skull Islands. Kong Skull Island showed how huge and dangerous just King Kong could be, you know, and how much of a big threat he could be. I love seeing that kind of stuff. With this, okay, and I also got to throw this as a negative too, because this kind of stuff annoys me in these movies, to where they will enter into the city, or they will enter onto a beach, or something along those lines. In fact, there's literally a scene where they go start walking onto a beach here, and the people can see the wave is acting completely abnormal, completely. And it's like freezes, the entire wave freezes because of the ice creature or whatever. And then the people are just still sitting there on the beach. They're like, oh, look at that. The water just froze. And then they see these giant monsters walk out. And then after they see the giant monsters come out, then they decide to start running. I'm like, are you serious? You wouldn't start running the moment you see a freaking thing just freeze up like that, and it's during a hot day at the beach. Was like, that would be abnormal. I would be running for my life the moment I saw that thing freeze. And I hate that in these movies, where you see, like, there's no one there to say evacuate early, and they're all like running away early, or you never see that. Even in Godzilla versus Kong, that's a negative of mine. That's just something that irritates me, because I'm not one here complaining about the destruction. Okay, I love the destruction of the buildings, even though they kill a lot of people. I get Godzilla. It's funny that King Kong is supposed to be a hero. Yo, he's killed a lot of people in those cities, all right? Because there are some people in those buildings he's definitely killed. But here's the thing, though. You're telling me you don't start evacuating when you see something abnormal, or when you hear something's coming your way. Like, it's just, that kind of stuff is ridiculous to me.
Want to know my least favorite cliche in those movies that luckily didn't happen here, but this to me is one of the dumbest cliches of all time.
What?
Okay, if we see this giant monster show up, give a loud roar, and then we have to run one jackass, run! Like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, why do you have to tell the people to run? Shouldn't they know to run?
Yeah. that is already that's one that I absolutely think is ridiculous. But I mean, they do something similar to that with the beach scene here. Like, you would think people would know automatically, start running away when you see a wave completely get frozen with ice. You would think, okay, this is abnormal. I'm running. I'm leaving. Goodbye. And stuff like that. But instead, it's like, no, they stand there and then they start leaving the moment that the monsters are there. It's really ridiculous. But
speaking of the MonsterVerse, you know, what I would love to see in the future?
what?
Another iteration of the classic King Kong story.
That would be cool. I am
because think about it. If we got in like the 1960s or 70s, whenever
70s, yeah.
And then we got Peter Jackson's in like 2005.
It started off as a 1930s movie though, or 40s. I think it was 40s.
Which it's like every few decades or two, just like a classic story like a Romeo and Juliet that is always told with like new versions and new iteration. I think it's time, because it's almost 20 years old, the Peter Jackson one. So I would love to see that, and after seeing a box office of like $80 million opening weekend, it's clear that there's an audience for these movies.
For sure.
Something else I would love to see, which I do not think this will ever happen.
Yeah.
No human characters.
I want that with Transformers as well, but yeah.
Just make a movie. Just make a movie with the monsters attacking. Even the scenes with Godzilla and the monkeys. I understood what was going on. I understood. Oh, he got betrayed. I know what's going on here.
That's why the trailers for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes have interested me so much, because it looks like there's only one human in that movie. The one girl. It looks like she's like the only human that's going to be in that film. It looks like the rest of it is just going to be ape centric, So
that I'm all for that. That in like things like Transformers and things like and why do they need to take things to the real world when you can, or like human characters, when you've got a plethora of amazing, of fun storytelling that you could do?
Yeah.
Like maybe you could have explored like actually form a friendship or like a team of King Kong and Godzilla,
Man, I was waiting during the movie. I was waiting for them to fuck, because seriously, there was some sexual tension there, and I was like, "Yo, I am ready for this one." But it was because, and also to me, I wish that they would utilize some of the other side monsters better, because I want to see more than just Godzilla and Kong. Like, that's why I didn't like King of the Monsters, was they introduced too many of the villain monsters, and then they kill off Ghidorah, and I'm like, are you serious? You could have saved Ghidorah for like a future movie later or something. And that was just like their third movie, and they killed off Ghidorah, which was really dumb. So,
but we got Mothra.
But then you got Mothra, who they did kill off, but then they brought back Mothra. So who knows? Maybe Ghidorah can come back at some point. But the thing is with Mothra, though, Mothra was pointless. I mean, yeah, Mothra still got them together, but technically, wasn't it the little girl that was working through Mothra that got them together or something like that? So technically, the little girl was the one that got them back to team up. And so I see. And the thing is when I was watching it closely, there was the Scar King, there was the ice creature, and then one of the ones that died early on was the third monkey. that was like, or the other monkey with him. He had a monkey goon. And my big issue was, I'm like, okay, so you have the 3 bad guys. Why don't you do like a No Way Home situation here? And why don't you have Mothra, Godzilla, and Kong team up? Like, add more to the monster carnage, add more monsters to that fight. That would have added even a better layer to it. So, and it would have made Mothra feel actually important to the film, So I would have liked to see that. It was unfortunate we didn't, but apparently they are looking right now to get Zack Snyder as the director of a upcoming Mothra movie. So that should be interesting if that happens. Like them doing a Mothra movie should be interesting. But
after $80 million opening weekend, I think that is gonna happen.
I think so, but also I think it made $80 million though because of the Godzilla and Kong name. If you have a movie just titled Mothra, I don't know how well that's going to do in comparison. So it is what it is, but we'll see how it does. I know this film is going to do pretty well. It doesn't really have much competition coming its way either because
really until May.
Yeah, because next weekend is the first Omen and Monkey Man. It's funny that we have one Monkey movie coming out, and then now we have Monkey Man coming out this weekend, but none of those are going to be box office juggernauts. Civil War will actually probably do pretty well for an A24 film just because of the conversation behind it, but it's not going to beat Godzilla X Kong. And then the only other one that maybe has potential is Abigail, but that's not till like the end of the month.
And I think Abigail only will have potential because it'll be like everybody's like, all right, we're sort of done with Godzilla and Kong at this point,
Yeah.
What else is out? Oh, there's a vampire movie out called Abigail. Let's give that a shot, kind of like how Dune 2 was, big, Now it's, now it's less of the conversation and it's more about Godzilla and Kong.
Exactly. So yeah, it'll be interesting to track its progress and see how it does because it did exceed its opening weekend projections. And so obviously there's fans of this kind of thing, fans of this kind of movie. It just wasn't really my kind of Godzilla and Kong film, but I do respect it though, and I still had a fun time, even if I didn't like it, I still had fun. Anyways, yeah. In conclusion, if what we are saying in this review is what you are looking for, and that's what matters to you, then go see this film. But if actual story matters with well-written characters, well-developed characters, all that kind of stuff, then don't go see it because you are not going to like this film. So,
I would ask you, why the hell would you think a movie called Godzilla X Kong in the MonsterVerse was gonna be a movie full of well-written characters with crisp dialogue?
Yeah, I am.
This is not Godzilla -1.
No, it's not Godzilla -1. It's not Peter Jackson's King Kong, which all were very serious tellings of these characters that we've seen so far. So, but it'll be interesting to see which one's better that people think are better overall between, because I think that Godzilla versus Kong was like maybe the better film, but I had more fun in this movie, if that makes sense. So that's my
I completely get it. I completely get what you mean.
Yeah. So yeah, that'll pretty much do it for this review, guys. Thank you all for being here. today watching this. Let us know down in the comments below what you thought of Godzilla X Kong or Guksk, if that's what you want to also call it. Let us know down in the comments. I read all your comments, even respond to a few of them. So, and also make sure you ring that notification bell so that you don't miss a video. We'll be having a lot of reviews coming to you guys this month, because soon Ross and I, we're going to be doing a double header review in one video. We're going to be doing reviews for Immaculate and Late Night with the Devil. I'm a little behind on those reviews, but we'll be doing those reviews for you guys, so that'll be interesting to be on the lookout for. And then also, of course, this weekend I'm seeing the first Omen, so I will be reviewing that one for you guys, and then maybe even doing like an Omen ranking video. And then I'll also be doing a Civil War review when that drops, and
I
other
will
stuff
be
like
here for
that.
that.
So yes.
I'll be here for that. I'm seeing that, like, I believe I'm going to see that opening weekend as well. And
Yes.
warning the audience, I think it's safe to say that review is probably going to get political, because just of the nature of that movie.
Yeah, I'm almost tempted not to review it because of the backlash it might receive, but I'm like, if I'm very passionate about the film and if I love it, then I probably will review it.
Or if you hate it, you're like, this movie is crap,
Yeah, which I doubt. I'll think that, but
I don't think so either.
We'll see how things go whenever it releases this month. But yeah, guys, make sure you subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for all those reviews coming your way. We will see you all in the next one, and until next time, stay classy, my friends, and keep on watching those movies.